This is Dean from Slate Companies, and in this video, I'm going to show you the secret to turning any drum recording, even poorly recorded drums, into pro, polished, spectacular sounding drums that will sound amazing in your mix. Now, this is something that pro mixers have been doing for decades, and it's part of the reason why their drums always sound so incredible. Now, take a listen to where we're starting. These are the raw drum tracks that were recorded. And now take a listen to where we're going to end up. As you can hear for yourself, no matter what drum recordings you're starting with, you can get the same amazing drum sounds, just like pro mixers. And it was an industry secret for a long time, but now you have access to the same tool. And that tool is Trigger 2 from Steven Slate Drums, which allows you to easily replace individual kicks, snares, and toms with the amazing samples from the Trigger Platinum library, one of the expansion packs, or even your own samples. Let's break it down step by step, how we were able to get these drums from this horribly recorded disaster to spectacular sounding pro drums with Trigger 2. It's really easy. Let's get started. Trigger 2 is an incredibly powerful and easy to use drum sample replacement tool. It lets you put it on as a plug-in insert in your DAW, detect the audio that's been recorded, and then automatically replace every time that drum hits with any sample you like. In fact, you can load up to 8 individual samples on a single instance of Trigger 2, so you can blend them together to get that ultra-realistic, massive sound you're looking for. Now let's take an overview of the Trigger 2 interface. On the left, we have these 3 buttons to adjust the main view. We have the browser, the trigger, and the settings. And in the browser, we can select the samples that we want to use. They're easy to locate and are organized with folders. Now the Platinum library for Trigger is full of amazing kicks, snares, and toms, as well as tons of presets for getting great sounding kits really quickly and easily. Now let's load in a kick sample, since this instance of Trigger is on the kick track, and let's go ahead and start out with the Absolute Rock Kit. We double click on the preset and we can see that it loads in all of the samples. Now, after we load in a sample from the browser, we will head over to the trigger section, and in the trigger section we can adjust the settings for how the plugin interprets the incoming audio and how it will trigger the sample that we've loaded from the browser. We can also blend the samples, we can adjust the volume with the faders, we can phase flip, solo, mute, whatever we need to get that perfect sound. Now, if we click on View Curves, we can shape the sample to our taste. With the attack, sustain, and release controls, we can adjust how the sample sounds. We can also adjust the dynamics, the velocity, and the range, which allow us to control how dynamic or non-dynamic the samples will play back. We also have the settings area, which allows us to select where the samples are stored. We can select license files, and we can also adjust some other settings like latency and MIDI in and MIDI out. So now that you have a basic understanding of the interface of Trigger 2, let's get into how to actually use it. It's super easy to use and get great sounding drums. Let's go ahead and dive in. Now we're starting off with this kick drum recording. Now, we've gone ahead and tightened it up a bit with Elastic Audio and Pro Tools, but you can do this type of editing in any DAW. So we're starting off with this pretty horrible sounding recording. There's a lot of bleed, the sound of the drum is bad, it sounds like it was recorded with an iPhone, so we're going to open up Trigger 2 and see what we can do. So the first thing I'm going to do is adjust my trigger settings in order to make sure that it is properly replacing the original kick hits. So I can use a sensitivity in order to adjust how sensitive the trigger is to the incoming audio. You can see that if I put the sensitivity lower towards 0, it's not going to trigger at all. I mean, we can see that Trigger 2 is clearly picking up the incoming audio, but it's just not triggering. So you can see that I need to set this sensitivity a little bit higher for it to work. Usually about 50 is a good spot for the sensitivity. And we can also adjust the detail. Now you notice that the lines start to move in on the waveform to show that it's picking up every little hit, even if it isn't a kick drum. So even if we have a lot of bleed like we do in this recording, we can set trigger 2 so that it only hits on the kicks. Take a listen. So we set it so that the kick drums are crossing the white lines, but the snare drums fall short of crossing them. So this means that it will trigger each of the times that the kick hits and not with the bleed from the snare. And we also have these low cut and high cut knobs here. So let's say you have a kick track with a lot of snare bleed. We could use this high cut knob to take out the high frequencies in order to make it not trigger when the snare hits. And vice versa, we could use the low cut knob to filter out the kick bleed on a snare track if we're having trouble setting that detail in a messy recording. Now, of course, we can adjust the volume of the output, but we can also adjust the mix. If we wanted to blend in some of the original recording with the sample, we could do that. This would be great if you're just looking to support the recording a bit with some samples. In this case, we want to completely replace, so I'm just going to go ahead and set this to 100%. Now, take another listen to the before and after, and you're going to hear again why the pros are using this tool on their mixes. Now, once I get the trigger set properly, I like to start going into the browser and start listening to different samples. Let's start out with the Slate Hybrid Kit here. This is one of my favorites. And all I have to do is click on this PR for the kick, and it will load up all of the samples. Let's go ahead and take a listen. How about the Paramore kit? We can double click on this preset here. Some great sounds there. Let's go ahead and try the Nashville Fata Kit. So you can hear again why these Platinum Library samples are so popular among the top pro mixers in the world. They just sound incredible. There's so many different flavors. It's really perfect for all types of music. Let's listen to a few more of these kick sounds. Let's try this CLA Hybrid Kit. Let's try the Classic Pop Kit. How about the Ballad Kit? Let's try out the Black Kit. So you can see again how easy it is to just flip around and try a bunch of different samples, try a bunch of different presets. It's super easy to find something that works and instantly improves the sound of your drums. Let's take a listen to some snare samples. I'm going to go ahead and solo the snare track and make sure that we've got trigger 2 set up. Now I've already got my sensitivity and detail set, so let's listen to a few presets here. Let's go ahead and load up the CLA Hybrid Kit. I'm going to hit the snare. Let's try the Black Kit. And how about the Classic Pop Kit? So a wide variety of sounds. It's just about finding what works best for your track. There's so many different flavors here. There's so many different styles of snare drum. Let's try out a couple more and take another listen here. Let's listen to the Modern Rock Kit. And how about the Paramore Kit? Let's try out the Perfect Rock Kit. Now, once we get ourselves a good starting point with whatever preset we like, we can always go in and dissect the samples. We can go into the mixer, adjust the levels, the pans, even the tuning, and really get that perfect sound for the track that we're working on. That's why it's so powerful. Now, again, you can hear for yourself what this is doing for our tracks and why it's such an essential tool in your mixer's toolkit. Now, the pro mixers have been using drum replacement and drum samples for decades, and it was an industry secret for a long time, but not anymore with Trigger 2 from Steven Slate Drums. You'll be amazed at what this can do for your tracks, so pick up your copy today and start getting those pro, polished, spectacular sounding drums that you've been looking for to fit in your mixes.